Welcome back, Focus learners. Let's jump right into today's explainer. We're unpacking a meticulously planned intelligence operation that spanned 20 entire years. We're looking at a true crime, high-stakes espionage thriller full of immense patience and incredibly complex geopolitics. We're pulling this straight from the historical accounts of Operation True Love, so let's map out exactly how this massive covert op went down based purely on the source material.
Think about it for a second. How long would an intelligence agency realistically wait to settle a score? A year? 5 years? Try 20. This operation is the absolute definition of playing the long game, and the sheer scale of the planning here, it's honestly going to blow your mind.
All right, let's get into it. Section 1. The 1989 Kidnappings. The Unresolved Past. To really grasp the stakes of this operation, we have to zoom out and look at the timeline. We're talking about a massive 20-year gap. It all kicks off way back in May 1989 with a tragic inciting incident. Fast forwards to a grim discovery in 1996, and then just absolutely skyrockets in intensity between December 2009 and January 2010. That 2-decade waiting period is the beating heart of our explainer today. So it all traces back to May of '89. A 19-year-old Israeli soldier named Elon is just waiting for a ride when a white Subaru pulls up. The guys inside act like friendly civilians, right? But they were actually undercover operatives for Hamas Unit 101. Now, according to the source accounts, shortly after getting in the car, Elon was shot at point-blank range. This actually mirrored a very similar kidnapping of another soldier, Avi. And the commander pulling the strings for this specific operational unit, a man named Mahmoud al-Mabhouh.
Section 2. Rise of a Commander from Mechanic to Mastermind.
Now, what's really wild is the sheer evolution of al-Mabhouh. Back in the 1980s, this guy was basically just a local mechanic in Gaza running a neighborhood extortion racket. But over the decades, he manages to escape through North Africa and completely transforms himself. He becomes this elite weapons smuggler and a top-tier Hamas commander operating out of Damascus, Syria. He leveled up into a major, crucial player in Middle Eastern geopolitics.
Which brings us to Section 3, Catalyst for Retaliation, the escalation of 2005.
Okay, so why now? What forced Mossad to suddenly prioritize this exact target after letting so much time pass? Well, it essentially came down to the Qassam-3 rocket. Let's look at the specs. An 8-mile range, a 20-kilogram payload, with origins in Iran. These things were terrifyingly effective. In 2005, one of these rockets, smuggled directly by al-Mabhouh's network, tragically killed a 17-year-old girl named Ella, who was actually shielding her brother in southern Israel. To Mossad, this specific weapons supply chain had crossed a line. It was an active, totally unacceptable threat.
The entire agency's mindset is perfectly summed up by this intelligence directive. If the smuggling network cannot be stopped, eliminate its creator. That right there is your main takeaway for why this matters. The agency, which was led by Meir Dagan at the time, now had a massive dual motive. Number 1, cripple a highly lethal weapons supply chain. And number 2, finally settle that unresolved score from back in 1989.
So, Section 4, the cyber trap, infiltrating the inner circle. This is where the spycraft gets literally out of a movie. Let's break down this incredibly clinical cyber espionage phase. Step 1. A Mossad double agent codenamed Golden Palm, who, by the way, was actually a senior Syrian intelligence officer in al-Mabhouh's own security detail, meets an operative at a cafe in Damascus. Step 2. The operative just casually leaves behind a lighter on the table. But of course, it's not a lighter. It's a disguised USB drive. Step 3. Golden Palm takes that little USB and uses it to install a Trojan horse virus directly onto the target's personal laptop. I mean, it is textbook high-stakes espionage. And because of that Trojan horse, intelligence analysts were suddenly monitoring literally every single keystroke he made. This led directly to a fatal booking mistake. He personally booked a ticket on Emirates flight EK912 for January 19, 2010. And the irony here is crazy. He specifically chose Emirates to avoid flying on Syrian Airlines, but there was only an economy seat left. Because of that, his armed bodyguards couldn't travel with him. By trying so hard to fly under the radar, he basically stripped away his entire security detail. Section 5. Operation in Dubai, the execution of the plan. Let's see how this all comes to a head.
30. That is a staggering number of Mossad agents deployed to Dubai for this one single operation. This wasn't some quick in-and-out hit. This was a massive, highly synchronized logistical web. They had agents disguised as wealthy European tourists, walking around with expensive laptops and tennis rackets, all of it just to track this one single target. So let's track al-Mabhouh's final movements. He arrives using a fake Iraqi passport, he checks into the Albistan Rotana Hotel, and he actually specifically requests room 230. Why? Because he wanted a room with no balcony and fully sealed windows. After that, he heads out to the Iranian embassy for a high-level meeting about Iranian Fajr 5 missiles. But he has no idea that the entire time he is completely surrounded by an invisible net of agents.
The moment he returns to his hotel, the hit team moves with just absolute clockwork precision. Step 1. Using some seriously advanced tech, an operative clones his room 230 keycard. Step 2. 4 agents are waiting in the pitch dark. They ambush him behind the door the very second he walks in at 8:32 p.m. Step 3. Almost before he can even blink, they hit him with a paralytic injection. Now, I've got to point out a really chilling medical detail from the source material. The drug was succinylcholine. It's a paralytic agent that completely freezes the body's muscles. But, and this is the terrifying part, it leaves the victim fully conscious. You can hear, you can see, you can feel everything. The objective wasn't just elimination. The source makes it crystal clear that this was purposefully designed not to be a painless or oblivious exit. And this detail brilliantly highlights the deep personal vendetta woven into this entire op. As he lay there paralyzed on the bed, an agent held up photographs right in front of his face. They were pictures of Elon and Avi, the 2 young soldiers that his unit had kidnapped and killed 20 years earlier. They made absolutely sure he knew exactly why this was happening in his final conscious moments. And then, to finish it, 11,000. That's the massive voltage they applied directly to his chest to electrocute his heart. They calculated this specific, brutal method to perfectly mimic a natural heart attack. It was all about delaying the police investigation and buying the hit team enough time to slip away. Which leads us right into Section 6. The aftermath and fallout, diplomacy versus strategy. So the immediate aftermath created these massive geopolitical ripples. On one hand, it was an absolute diplomatic disaster. The forged European and Australian passports that the agents used were eventually exposed by Dubai police combing through CCTV, and that led to some severe international backlash. But on the other hand, strategically, Mossad achieved exactly what they set out to do. They completely disrupted a highly lethal smuggling network. Just looking at the immediate post-operation chaos, 27 agents fled Dubai on a bunch of different flights within hours of the ambush. The Dubai police discovered the body the very next day. Initially, they thought it was just a heart attack, but then they noticed his black bag was missing. As the police pieced together this massive web of CCTV footage, allied countries fiercely condemned the agency for the passport forgery. It was, quite frankly, an absolute PR nightmare. But we've got to return to our core anchor for this explainer, why this structurally matters to intelligence strategy. Because despite the incredibly messy diplomatic fallout, that smuggling network was completely paralyzed. According to the source, the sheer fear instilled by this highly public assassination meant that for the next 4 years, there wasn't a single civilian rocket death on Israel's southern border. Which brings us to a final, really provocative thought I want to leave you with today. In the unforgiving shadow of global geopolitics, do the strategic results of covert operations ultimately outweigh the diplomatic fallout? It's a massive moral and strategic puzzle, and honestly, it's a question that completely defines the modern world of espionage. Thanks for joining me on this Explainer-focused learners. Keep asking those big questions, keep analyzing the data, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive.